Today, we're going to tackle a really high-stakes story. It's right at the intersection of artificial intelligence and the incredibly personal, often painful, fight for family. We're going to explore a new system that's designed to bring objective truth into the child welfare system. And it was all sparked by one family's crisis and one child's powerful voice.
And this is that voice. This is a quote from a child named Bella. And these words, they just cut right to the very heart of the problem, don't they? This isn't some angry adult making an allegation. It's the heartbreakingly clear perspective of a child who saw how the system, the one meant to protect her, really works. Her experience is the reason we're even talking about this today.
So Bella's story really put the entire system on trial. It ended up exposing what looked like a pattern of really deep, systemic failures. Failures so significant that they seemed to demand a whole new approach.
And the allegations here, well, they paint a pretty grim picture of a total breakdown. We're talking about parents allegedly being shut out of the process, false information being spread, family bonds being cut, and maybe the worst part, children's own voices being totally silenced. It all points to this massive systemic failure of due process.
So out of all that crisis, the Bella's Voice Initiative was born. And it had one single goal: to create an unfiltered witness. Basically, a tool that could capture a child's experience objectively, getting around all the fear and potential manipulation that can so easily cloud the truth.
So what do we even mean by an objective record? Well, it's a huge shift away from just relying on someone's notes or their memory. Instead, the system gathers actual, verifiable, unchangeable facts from things like the body's stress response, from sounds, from digital trails, to create a single source of truth that isn't based on human bias.
Okay, so here's how it actually works. A smartwatch worn by the child acts as that unfiltered witness. First, it tracks something called heart rate variability, which is just the tiny changes in time between heartbeats to objectively measure when a child is stressed or calm. It also listens for acoustic signatures of distress, like shouting. But maybe the coolest part is how it creates what are called ghost logs. It uses game-like prompts so a child can record what's happening in their own words without the pressure of having an adult right there in the room.
But look, just capturing the data, that's only step one. The real game changer is how that data gets used. And that brings us to the AI cop platform. Think of it like a command center for the family's lawyer, designed to turn all that raw data into a powerful, data-driven defense.
So the whole ecosystem really has three main parts. You've got the smartwatch on the child, which is the unfiltered witness capturing the objective facts. That data then flows into the AI cop platform for the attorney. And then there's a third piece, the Smart DR portal, which gives doctors and therapists access to that same data so they can provide better care. It's all designed to work in sync.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Think about the power this gives a defense attorney who's often just completely overwhelmed and outgunned. This platform pulls in all the case data, it cross-references every single claim against all the other data, and it can instantly see that, say, a child's biometric stress spiked at the exact moment a certain caseworker visited. It automatically flags falsehoods in reports and can even help write up the legal paperwork. It's a true force multiplier for justice.
And this really gets to the core mission of this whole thing. It's designed to be an incorruptible equalizer. In a system where it's so often just a parent's word against a state employee's word, this technology tries to finally move past that he said, she said mess by bringing a third party into the room. Cold, hard, verifiable facts.
And here's what that looks like in action. On the left, you have a classic subjective caseworker note. It's damning, sure, but is it actually true? Now look at the right, the AI verified record. It doesn't have an opinion, it just states facts. A negative drug test is a fact. GPS data showing up for meetings is a fact. This simple comparison completely changes the entire dynamic of the case.
The ultimate goal here really is to level the playing field. By giving families and their lawyers this independent, data-driven source of truth, the system is meant to cut those inappropriate ties and conflicts of interest that can pop up between overworked public defenders and the state agencies they're supposed to be holding accountable. It gives the defense a truly independent foundation to stand on. So where is all this objective truth coming from? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a layered approach. It pulls from the child's biometric and acoustic data, from digital communications, from records of case compliance, and even, if the family agrees, from visual context. All of it together creates this comprehensive 360-degree view of what's really going on.
And this is a really critical point. To make sure this doesn't just become some kind of high-tech gotcha machine, the AI is programmed to be balanced.
It is designed to actively look for and document positive parenting just as much as it logs things that are concerning. The whole idea isn't to build a case against a parent, but to build a complete and hopefully unbiased picture of the truth.
Of course, anytime you talk about a system this powerful, you immediately run into huge questions about privacy, control, and personal choice. So let's take a look at how this model is designed to try and balance that need for systemic protection with a person's right to their own autonomy.
The rollout is planned in 2 phases. At first, it's completely voluntary. Families can choose to opt out. But the long-term vision is that once the system has proven its value in court, participation would become mandatory. The thinking there is to make sure that every child, not just the ones whose parents opt in, is protected by this layer of objective oversight. But mandatory doesn't mean families lose all their control. Actually, a key part of the design is giving families ongoing choices. They can decide if they want to share historical data, like old social media posts, or if they want to allow photo analysis. They can even opt out of most of the physiological monitoring. The big exception is psychological monitoring, which is considered essential.
So, with all this sensitive data flying around, how is it protected? Well, there are several key safeguards built right in. Personally identifiable information isn't even stored unless a real emergency gets flagged. Location tracking is kept to a minimum. All the data is heavily secured. And maybe most importantly, there's an independent agency whose only job is to constantly monitor the AI itself to make sure it's working ethically and correctly.
So, when you boil it all down, what's the mission? It's to use this tech to create a system that's actually transparent and accountable. A system where every child's voice, a voice like Bella's, isn't just a whisper that can be dismissed, but a clear, protected, cherished part of the record. A voice that is, above all, finally heard. And that really leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. As we keep creating these powerful new tools to find objective truth and protect the vulnerable, we have to keep asking ourselves, what is the right balance? How do we weigh the incredible promise of systemic oversight against the fundamental need for personal privacy? The answer we find is going to shape the future of justice for families everywhere.